Freedom, freedom, yeah. Freedom, freedom. We want freedom to determine our destiny for our community. We want freedom to determine destiny for our community. We want freedom to determine the destiny of our community. We want freedom to determine the destiny of our community. Let's go now.
America says it doesn't have any political prisoners, but there are always 70 political prisoners in America, and 14 of them are members of the Black Panther Party. And it's the Commemoration Committee life work to let y'all know about them so we can get them freed. And thanks to a lot of you in here, we have some free political prisoners with us today. And if you see me getting emotional, I can tell you why. This first brother was released on March 4th, 2014, which is my birthday. And I call him every year to tell him, happy release date, brother. Marshal Eddie Conway. That's right, that's right. Stand up. That's right. Eddie Conway was the longest held political prisoner on the East Coast. All right. I'm getting ready to get emotional again. The next brother I'd like to bring up was released from Angola. He's one of the Angola 3. When he was released, he told Angola, I might be free of you, but you're not free of me. And Robert King, went all over the United States, all over England, all over the world to champion the freedom of the rest of his brothers, the Angola 3. In 2001, in 2013, he was able to go tell Herman Wallace, you're free, my brother, come on home. It was a bittersweet victory for us because Herman joined the ancestors 3 days later. But Herman got his wish. He passed as a free man. Let's give it up for Robert King. And I like to tell everybody that fighting for social justice is a commitment and it's a long-term struggle. And you have to be dedicated to this work. And King was dedicated because the next brother I'd like to bring up, King was released in 2001, and he was able to go back on Albert Woodfox's birthday and say, yo, my brother, you're free. Albert Woodfox was the longest held political prisoner in the United States. I was at a panel and I said that, and somebody said, wait a minute, BJ, he was the longest held political prisoner in the world. Let's bring up Albert Woodfox. He was held in solitary confinement. Robert King spent over 30 years in solitary confinement. But with the help of you guys, we can free all political prisoners. We have another free political prisoner, Sekou Odinga, who was on the schedule, but he couldn't make it. But I am so happy to have the daughter of Russell Maroon Shoatz. She's been fighting for her father's freedom ever since I've known her. I must have known her about 15 years now. Let's give it up for Theresa Shoatz. So I'm done. Thanks for coming. I'd like to turn this over to Yasmin's son.
Before I start to ask questions, I'd like to thank everyone here for taking an interest to even come into this workshop, and I will be reporting it to the brothers inside. But I always like to start out, even though we saw their names, I always like to start out with bringing them into the room. And bringing them into the room, we start with Chip. Unfortunately, we will say the longest held Panther political prisoner. He's been in jail since 1969. We have Ed Poindexter, 1970. Joseph Bowman, Jalil Mustaqim Bottom, 1971. Russell Maroon Shoatz, 1972. Sundiata Okoli, Veronza Bauer, Robert Seth Hayes, Herman Bell, 1973. Kenny Zulu Whitmore, 1977. Malika Shakur, 1981. Mumia Abdul Jamal, 1982. Imam Jamil Alameen, 2000. And Freddie Kamal Siddiqui Hilton, 2002. So I want to bring their spirits into this room. I guess the first question that I would like to present or ask, starting with Eddie, is what led you to join the Black Panther Party?
Okay. Well, I was in Europe, in the Army, on my way to Vietnam, and a whole series of riots took place here in the United States of America in the black community. So basically, I decided to come home and see if I could help solve whatever problems were existing, whatever was inflicting the black community and the conditions that our people lived in. And I tried the NAACP, I tried CORE, I tried to work with organizations that were integrating workplaces, etc. But over a period of time, I found out that our problems in the black community was much more serious, and that I had to involve in some much more serious organizing in terms of feeding our children, in terms of taking care of our health needs, in terms of educating our people. And the Black Panther Party was the organization that was doing that at the time, so I joined.
I want to present the same question to Robert King.
Yes, thank you, Yasmin, thank you. I imagine the track that I went on was similar to anyone else who joined the Black Panther Party. Being a post-World War II baby, being born and raised in New Orleans, living in the South, I saw a lot of things go on in the South that many people would not even envision in other places. Don't get me wrong, not that America was any better anywhere else, it was just more subtle, as Malcolm said a long time ago. But at that time, I was an individual. I had a political, I was a person who I was a rebel without a cause. I did not have a political consciousness at the time. And so the Black Panther Party sort of provided me. They gave me some validity. of the things that I was thinking about that I wasn't able to put into context, that is the language that is, and these are the things that attracted me to the Black Panther Party, and this was around 1969 or early 70s, and the Black Panther Party, the first shootout occurred in New Orleans, first shooting, if you want to call it that. It was more of a shooting than a shootout, and there was some, yeah, there were, I was in the New Orleans Parish Prison, having been rearrested and placed in the New Orleans Parish Prison on my way to Angola. But at the time, I was being held. I had escaped out the New Orleans Parish Prison for a minute, and afterwards they had placed me on the 5th floor in the New Orleans Parish Prison, and I saw there was a television on the tier where we lived at. Wasn't but 5 individuals on the tier at the time, and there was a mesh wire that sort of separated us from the television and everything else. But we were able to hear the television, and there was an interlude in the program. It was mostly based for the man who was at the door watching over us, the gatekeeper, whomever or whatever he called himself at the time. And he was watching this program, and there was an interruption, and it stated that there was a shootout between militants down in the Ninth Ward, and there was a shootout. And so that sort of captured my attention, and I looked at it. And it sort of was, when I looked at that, I saw the shootout, I saw the shoot-in, or whatever you call it, I saw this, and I looked at that, I said, wow. And I really wanted to be in that house at that time. My evolution at that time wanted me to be in that house. I wish I could have materialized, dematerialized and went into that house, but that didn't happen. And the fact that it didn't happen, okay, here we are today. But that was the reason why I joined the Black Panther Party, because they were articulating things, and they were saying things that I really could not articulate for myself, and they put my feeling in context, and I was able to make sense of what was going on, and being able to make sense of what was going on, it sort of continued my evolution, and that's where I am now. I'm still evolving, and I'm at a point in time now. I was looking at the movie, listening at the film. I know I'm taking a little longer, but I was looking at the film because I'm emotional too. I'm very emotional too, and I just couldn't help. I saw all these brothers, from young men to the elders. It just fading away. When we say free all political prisoners, we're going to get in there. We want to do this. This is our quest. This is our aim. When we say free all political prisoners, we want political prisoners free, and we have a legitimate reason to free political prisoners. It is legitimate because the thing that they have done to us over the years is totally immoral, and we want to deal with it from that level.
Okay. Thank you, Brother King. But I still want to ask the same question to Albert Woodfox.
All power to the people. I think what drew me to the Black Panther Party, plain and simple, was courage. The courage that they exhibited, the strength that they showed, the determination to serve and protect the people in the African American community. My trail to the Black Panther Party is somewhat different than most, but in the final analysis, those are the qualities that I saw in the Panthers for the first time in my life. I had seen African American men and women without fear. I had seen them working to build the black community rather than destroy it. I had seen them take care of our elders and our children, and it put me to shame because prior to joining the party, I was just like most men of my generation. I was a petty criminal and a predator upon my own community, my own people. So the party instilled in me what I could be rather than what I was. And it was the strength of the Black Panther Party. It was the example set by so many brothers and sisters, the sacrifices made that sustained me and allowed me to survive 44 years of solitary confinement.
That's right. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Now, I want to get what I call our cub, one of our cubs.
That's right.
Involved in this discussion. And I have the question that I have for our cub is, what was the effect of, and what is the effect to the families?
Well, first of all, I'm honored to be here and to be sitting on a panel with my leaders and my heroes, because my father, as a Black Panther, was my hero. And when I learned, I was only about 9 years of age when our door was kicked in by Philadelphia police officers, because my father had liberated himself from prison. And that was the turning point for me. Liberated himself twice. Yes, 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 yes. And although recaptured, it was when I learned, because my mother never spoke about it, but I seen financially that we were distraught without my dad being there with him, going to fight on the front lines for freedom. He left a family behind. And a lot of times I had to deal with, you know, the challenges of seeing my mother struggle and then thinking my dad left us, but he left to protect those in our community. So what it did for me, I can tell you, one thing it did was when I finally learned that what my father was in prison for, I went up to one of the Pennsylvania prisons to see my dad, because I always thought it was this nice, well-kept, manicured lawns and shiny floor. And when I found out that he was living amongst these guards and all these police, I kicked the first guard in the balls. I went fast. I was running as fast as I could. And they carried me out of the prison. And they said, today you won't see your dad. And I tell that story because kids today who are suffering with loved ones behind bars, I was acting out on my emotions. But a kid today would be arrested. I was taken out, and that day started everything for me that I knew I was going to fight for my dad the rest of my life. And so... And I'm talking about, that was then. I was 9 years of age. Today, I'm in my 50s, but after being 9 years of age and learning about what my dad really stood for, I still pursued on to have a job. I worked in the school district for years. It wasn't until I seen the pain that my dad was suffering, being in solitary confinement almost 30 years. See, we thought when we, as Robert King said, that we're going to free them, we have to do more than freeing them, saying the word, we're going to free them. We have to do more than that. And it came to me that I can't say that either. Oh, we're going to free my dad. I'm going to support everything out there. No, I had to push back from my desk and my job, quit my job, gave up my place, moved in with my mother, and I started fighting full force for my dad released from solitary confinement. And we got that.
Okay.
So that's where I'm in today, and now it's solitary, although he's released from solitary
I want
confinement.
to get to the status. The next question is the three brothers that are sitting here. It took a lot of work. So starting with Eddie, can you speak about what it took to enable you to be on this side of the wall? Can you just give us a briefing of what happened and the strategies used, perhaps, in seeing your freedom, or eventually understanding and knowing what needed to be done?
Okay, well, in the final analysis, the bottom line is that it was a legal activity that gave me my freedom. But what helped me survive for 44 years was tens of thousands of people, people working on support committees, people working individual letters, postcards, fundraisers, rallies, and so I owe my survival to people, to the people in the black community, the white community, brown community, etc. People around the world that kept my spirits high, that kept me engaged and involved in the struggle, but it also let me know that at no time was I alone. And that's what every political prisoner needs. And ultimately, each and every political prisoner that you see walks out the door as a result of legal activities. So we need to encourage that, we need to support that, and we need to help develop that in terms of legal funds and so on. But every little thing, a postcard, a letter, a rally, protest, etc., every little thing helps.
Okay. And I'm presenting the same question to Robert King.
Well, I imagine, again, sort of the same track. Being in prison with a life sentence without the possibility of parole, probation, or suspension of sentence, which means that you'll never get out of prison, it kind of sort of dims the hope of many individuals. But I was able to put things, like I said in the last a few moments ago, that I was able to put things in context, and being able to put things in context, I was able to do some, I was able to change my mind about a whole lot of things, and I was able to put things in context, and I was able to overcome a whole lot of the barriers that is akin with prison, because when you have no hope, you can lose whatever else you have. You can lose the rest of you if you don't have any hope. But that did not happen, and so here I am today, and I want to save the bulk of my conversation for when we get off into some things. I want to save the bulk of it because I have a plan. We have to do some planning. We can talk about how we come through things and so forth and so on. But my question, my aim is, my commitment is for life. I want to devote the rest of my life on behalf of political prisoners. And I want to put political prisoners in context because, we are all sort of political prisoners. We are political victims and we don't know it. So, I'll just hold up a little bit.
Thank you. Albert?
The road to me sitting here before you tonight took 44 years. And along the way, as Eddie has already stated, there were a lot of people, starting with my family. I have a brother, his name is Michael, who stuck with me for 44 years, and he visits me every month. I have one of my attorneys sitting in the audience who was only a law student, who dared to challenge the judicial system of the state of Louisiana. And the reason I'm sitting here is because of the work and the sacrifice that he did. He preserved the issues that are... And I want to ask you to stand up, Scott.
Scott. Yeah.
I know he don't like me to put him on the spot, but this man worked tirelessly for 2 weeks putting together my first post-conviction that led to my case being overturned for the first time. I may be the only person in the state of in the United States who has had his case overturned 3 times and still was not freed. And there are so many heroes, or I consider them heroes, along the way, and it would say, I think the turning point for all of us was when the animals who held us captive in Angola asked us to give up our political beliefs, and our political activities as a bargaining chip to get out of solitary confinement. Well, 44 years, they got their answer.
Right on.
Once a Panther, always a Panther.
Right on, right on, right on. And with that point, can you just speak a little bit about Kenny Zulu Whitmore and what's going on with him right now? If you can, either one of you.
Well, Kenny Zulu Whitmore, he's a brother also, a member of the Black Panther Party. Herman Wallace brought him into the party some years ago, in the early 70s, mid-70s or so, while being held in Baton Rouge Parish Prison. And Kenny Zulu Whitmore, he was a native of Baton Rouge, Vacherie, Louisiana. And I think he was charged along with another individual in the death of, first he was charged with an armed robbery, and then a year later, while still in the New Orleans Parish Prison, by this time he had met Herman Wallace, but while still in Baton Rouge Parish Prison, I think they ended up putting another charge on him, which was a murder and a robbery, and they convicted him. But however, the good side of that is, at this particular time here, there have been records uncovered in which there was a conspiracy, COINTELPRO-like stuff,
Right.
that also, took part in his conviction, and his case is pending, and which is another thing that we are working on. And I think Zulu might be one of the next political prisoners in Louisiana to be released from prison. But we going further. We have to go further.
Right.
Just like everything else is happening all across the nation, all across the country, brother. We don't want it to be in spots, But Zulu is doing well, and I think Zulu will eventually be released from prison. His hope is high. Actually, we talked, I think this morning or yesterday, he called this morning, and his hopes is pretty high, and he extended his revolutionary love to everybody who's here, and thank you very much for the activities that's going on around here.
I just wanted to, I wanted to bring up, we're talking about the power. I wanted to bring up the fact that in New York, we have Herman Bell, Robert Seth Hayes, and Jalil Bottom, and they have been in prison 46 years, and the New York State has created what they called a compass to decide whether you can come out of prison because of risk if you're to return. And what's been happening, I know in New York, is that they've always been hit at the parole board, and Jalil has been at, I think, 8 times, Seth 11 times, and they've always been denied. And it's always been based on the nature of the crime. And it really has to do with the makeup of the parole board. So New York, and I'm sure in other states, if you could just look at the parole boards and the makeup of those parole boards, and they're usually people from law enforcement. And so it's been the nature of the crime, as opposed to forgetting about anything that they've done and since they've been in prison. You have Herman Bell, who now has a master's degree and has worked on and has done a lot of work in the community, as I'm sure these brothers can attest to, and I know Eddie can attest to this, is that while they're in prison, I want you to know, these brothers have not stopped working for the communities. And that is, it's amazing to see what these brothers have done from the inside. So can you imagine what it would be like if they came home? Yeah, it would be powerful. And because these brothers that's sitting here, what they have been doing, and that goes into my next question, what have been some of the things that you've done since you've been home? And though it's been a short period of time. Eddie?
Okay, well, I'd like to just step back 1 second, though. In the prison, we actually did spend a lot of time working with young people, mentoring, creating an organization that spread throughout the Maryland prison system that helped mentor thousands of young people to let them know who they were, let them know how to negotiate through the prison, and encourage them to come back to the community and put the work in the community to help rebuild our communities. Some of those brothers got released, and when I got released, they were already in the community working. So we work in the community, I work in the community, along with inside and outside people that were engaged in these programs. And it's the community that Freddie Gray got beaten in. It's the community where it's the highest level of incarceration in the state of Maryland. It's the community that's the most policed, and it's also the most impoverished. So we're building in that community to give young people another narrative so that they can try to figure out how to negotiate this and build a strong community and put the community back together. Our communities are broken in a lot of cases.
Okay.
Well, what have I done since I've been out?
What has it been like for you?
What's it been like?
Yes, yes.
It's been good. I don't have a problem. I think my evolution allows me to do this at this point in time in my life. So it's good. I've done it's been pretty decent. We have managed to, when I first came home, I see some folks in the audience who are here. I think they kind of sort of lit my path a little bit. I look out into the audience and I see like Rigo Guevara. He's the artist, and I won't ask him to stand unless he just wants to stand, but he's the artist from Portugal. He's known from all over the world. I think if you see the picture of 3 Panthers, one breaking out, 2001, that was his portrait. And now he got now he got 3 pictures because Herman broke out and then Albert broke out, so to speak. And then I see Judy Katz. When I first came home, I went out to Chicago. I was able to meet up. Fred Hampton Jr. got out not long after I was released, and I was able to meet up with Fred and the family as a result of Judy Katz. At the time, she worked for who did you work for at the time? You worked for somebody, Judy. I'm talking about you, Judy, right there, Judy Katz. Where she's at? Is Judith here? She's not in. Okay. Anyway, I work with a bunch of people. I went to Chicago. I went to a lot of places. I went to all over the country. Matter of fact, working with the people and doing certain things. And I think we were able to build coalition with people, not just with Amnesty USA. It took a while. I know a lot of people have a thing with Amnesty USA or Amnesty International, and rightly so, maybe. But with us, it was a whole different scene. We got Amnesty, we couldn't get Amnesty USA on board with us, but we eventually got Amnesty International, who forced Amnesty USA to get on board, because Amnesty International eventually got on board with us. And we still have that operation, we still have that coalition with Amnesty International, because we were able to meet up with people in France, Belgium, actually East and West Germany, Scotland, just name it. And we were able to meet up with people all over who are part of who have been a part of this project of ours, in order to to keep the idea of prisoners into the forefront. And this is where we are. We have we have people on board who are with us, who want to keep the idea and the concept of political prisoners high on the chart. And so this is where this is where we are. And since, like I said, I've done a lot of things. I intend to do a lot of things. I'm just getting started, and until unless I fall off the plane, and I'll be doing it until I do. So it's not a problem. I'm not finished, and I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And again, I look at the brothers, and I look at, you know, the brothers who remain in prison, and I really want, you know, the idea is to free these brothers from prison and to, I mean, to lay bare, you know, the reason and the bogus reason as to why these brothers and sisters are still in prison to this day, 30, 40, and 50 years later. But anyway, I'll just pass the mic on to Albert. I know he's waiting to get me.
Albert, the question has been, what has life been like since you on this side of the wall?
Quite different. I think for me, the biggest adjustment is being able to walk beyond 9 feet. Being able to turn and walk beyond 6 feet, which is the dimensions of the cell I was held in for 43 years. The good part of it is that, I reconnected with my daughter. I have a daughter. I have 3 grandkids and 4 great-grandkids. They have accepted me back in their lives. Members in my community have embraced me and welcomed me back into the community. Like King, I make appearances, I speak on the horrors of solitary confinement, why it must end. We speak on the brutality of prisons and the racist judicial system that exists in this country that victimizes people of color, which is one of the reasons I'm here today before everyone, you know.
All right.
The struggle is far from over.
Yes, sir.
And I hope if anything, I can be an example, because there are going to be times when you're going to get tired, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to feel hopeless. But you have to find a way, you have to find the courage, you have to find the strength, the determination. You have to be willing to make the sacrifices, whatever they are, and keep struggling. You know? Because if you don't, the alternative, you know, I think my biggest disappointment since I've been out is things that I left in society are still here 44 years later. The fact that we live in a country where a police officer can be judge, jury, and executioner for a traffic ticket and kill a father in front of his 4-year-old daughter. We can't keep accepting this. You know? And the only way we're going to stop stuff like this is, as King and as Eddie has said and as Theresa has said, we have got to build a united front. And we have got, as Brother Malcolm said, we have got to forget our differences and remember that we have a common enemy. And right now, that common enemy is the government of the United States of America.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Theresa, I just want to ask you to give us a brief update on your dad and his situation, if you can share it.
Presently, my dad has been out of solitary confinement for 2 years now. And that was a fight that, as Eddie stated earlier, that it had to come through the court system, although that can be dragged out forever because we have no control over it. We went in as against the Department of Pennsylvania Prisons as unusual and cruel treatment to hold someone in solitary confinement, as long as they did my dad as well as others. And recently, my dad won a settlement, but no money can make up for what they did to him almost 30 years in solitary confinement, and today to continue to hold him in prison for a crime they know he did not commit. Today, what the lawsuit did do, we are grateful that he won his freedom from solitary confinement, but more than that, what it did was it opened up legal documents, and it told the truth behind why my dad was in solitary confinement. And it wasn't the escapes. They said they were never afraid of him to escape again because, you know, financially, these prisons are well staffed, backed with monies, and right now they can zap someone off the face of the earth who tries to escape. So it wasn't the escapes they were worried about. In the legal documents, it states that he was a leader, an educator, and he was still in good shape to be in his 70s.
Right.
And that's what they were mostly afraid of. So today, what they did was they moved him into a newer prison, which we thought was all good, but he's been transferred into a unit with all mentally ill people. And that way he won't be able to teach, educate, or lead. He's the only sane one in the unit, and he was very nervous about it because upon arriving in his cell, a mentally ill prisoner came behind him and took his sneakers from him. He said he let that go. You know, he know not to turn his back on them, not for any long lived for time. And once they seen that he was bringing in commissary, that he was able to buy personal items for himself, and they are prisoners who have been taken off the streets, sometimes to clean our streets up and make them look like we don't have homeless and mentally ill people. They're languishing behind bars and mentally ill. He would have to give out his commissary to them because some of them, people don't even know they're there. And then they learned his name because he's giving out so much stuff. So it was Maroon, Maroon, Maroon. And he said, I'll be crazy soon. So he figured out a way to do it. And what he did was he started buying coffee and cigarettes. And he said he'd sit back now and they're all just with these cigarettes rocking, but they're not at his door. They're not. But I say that because there's more treatment to be done beyond that. And to put him in with all of these mentally ill, it's like he's back in solitary confinement.
Okay. Thank you.
You know what? Let me give props to my other heroes, my siblings in office, because well before me, I just been on this fight for 10 years, but my siblings in the audience, we're talking about 42 years my dad had been in prison, 43 years, and they were on the front lines well before I came on. They claim I was asleep 23 years ago. I want them to stand up. Sharon and Russell Shoatz III, stand up.
I'd like to thank our panelists. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's an honor for me to be sitting up here with you. And with that, we wanted to have time to have the audience perhaps ask some questions, and they can address them.
Please come down to the mic right here.
To give the opportunity for our audience to become a part of. Yes.
First of all, I just want to thank you. Not only were you released, but you've come out with a goal to do something, and that's good. Second of all, I want to give a shout out for Hawk Rogers, who kind of got lost in this thing. Black Panther Party in the 60s, and he was imprisoned, and then he disappeared. Mm-hmm. And that never gets dealt with because they don't know what happened to him. And so remember Hawk Rogers. And then finally, Black Panther Party, I was born and raised in Oakland, so it was never, I read about it or got involved because the people that were the originals were just neighbors and friends and went to school together and et cetera. So, but I do want to speak to one thing that I did hear about this idea of being a victim. I do not believe that black people are victims. And I don't want anyone here to ever raise their child to think of themselves. We get victimized.
Excuse me, brother. I don't want to cut you off, but please, if you could ask your question.
Okay, and my question is that as you're going forward with your freedom, do you see, because it's been a short time for some of you and longer, do you see evidences where individuals that have not been incarcerated are understanding you? Now, I am a person who was locked up, so, but understanding, like when you mentioned 40 years, 30 years, like, sometimes, I'm not going to answer that. That's my question.
All right.
Well, first place, I'm part of a television network, a worldwide television network, The Real News. So I talk to a lot of people, either through the television network or even in colleges and so on. I think people understand what we went through, and I think they understand where they are today and the conditions that they're living in. But for the most part, they want to know what to do about it, whether they can learn from our lessons, from our mistakes, from our gains. And so we have to share, and we have to communicate back and forth. We have to learn also from people in their conditions, because their conditions are not the conditions that we grew up in and we organized in. In fact, they're worse. But we have to have that dialogue, and I think it's taking place through all kinds of medias, social medias, networking, alternative medias, and so on.
Next question.
Greetings, family, free the land. My name is Mama Ayana Mashama. I'm with the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement Oakland chapter and co-coordinator of the State of Black Oakland People's Assemblies. One of the things, as a mother of a child who has been murdered in the streets of Oakland, that consistently comes to mind for me is how can we organize inside to begin to affect the culture and change the culture outside, to begin to bring and also bring focus and unity between what's happening in the prisons and what's happening in the streets.
I think we're doing that now, sister. Thanks for the question. But I think the fact that we're here today and the fact that so many people are on board now, we are talking about this on two sides of the aisle. And so I think the thing that we are doing have been impacted. I think we continue to do what we do. And like I say, the fact that we are here now and the fact that political prisoners are being released from prison as a result of the work that is ongoing and by a conglomeration of people, not just, one group here, one group there. I mean, all of these pebbles, we throw pebbles in a pond, we get ripples, and we may be 1,000 miles and throw a pebble in a pond here, and might be 1,500 miles there and throw a pebble in a pond, but if you throw it in the same pond, at some point, keep throwing those pebbles in the pond, those ripple effect will come together, it'll turn into a wave. In other words, the impact will be felt throughout. So you ask how, nothing is cut and dry. I mean, it's a process. It's an evolutionary process, and we are working it. And I think we're at a point in time in history now where they're talking about it on both sides of the aisle. So we shouldn't feel grateful that we have accomplished anything. We should, on the other hand, feel like we haven't accomplished what we need to accomplish. The goal is still to get, change this system. And one way of doing it, and we have to learn to fight on many different fronts. We're fighting for sure. It is crunch time to get political prisoners out of prison at this point in time. It is crunch time, but there are so many other things going on, economic inequality, discrimination, racism, all of these stuff that are taking place. And I think we have the ability to fight on all of these fronts. And we have allies. We have people who are working with us. We may not know of them. We may not hear about them. We may not, get the drift or the ripple, or we may not see the ripple. But believe me, it's there. And so I think we keep doing what we're doing, and we are making some inroads. I think we have to keep doing what we're doing, and I know I will. I think each individual should make the dedication that I will continue, and believe me, we will have some impact.
Okay. The young sister on that side.
Hi, I'm Kiari Neal from De Anza High School, and my question. My question is, do you think that prison should be reformed or abolished?
Abolished.
You want me to answer that?
No, you did.
On a personal level, I think prisons should be abolished. But come on, but that's my personal feeling. But realistically, someone asked me this, and if we abolish prisons and revolution is successful in this country, and what do we do with the real criminals? Do we do like ISIS? We go out and dig a ditch and shoot them in their head? Or do we have prisons that are humane and catered towards building humanity up instead of making it a victim? And punishment is measured in terms of trying to re-enter people into society. So while personally I want all prisons, to be destroyed, realistically, I think our works in prisons should be to make prisons more humane and make prisons work in a manner that allows people who make mistakes or people who are forced because of economic situations to break the laws of society to rehabilitate themselves. I hate that word, but to rehabilitate themselves and then enter into society. And that's another thing King and I always try to make. As big as the problem as prisons are, society has become a bigger problem. So if you let a guy or a woman out of prison, to what? They're ex-convicts. Most of them can't. They lose their right to vote for the rest of their lives. They can't get public assistance. They can't own certain types of businesses. You have all these obstacles that's going to almost guarantee that probably 9 out of every 10 going back to prison.
Right.
Yeah. So we have to be, as King said, the struggle can't just be to get people out of prison. The struggle also has to be to make society accept people who come out of prison as citizens with the same rights that any other citizen has.
How y'all doing? My name is Gerald, excuse me, and I work with the Labor Action Committee to free Mumia. My question, I need some guidance really on this matter because we have an opening for Mumia Abu-Jamal. It's a legal opening, but it is an opening nonetheless, and we want to take full advantage of it. Just for context sake, there has been a decision by the Supreme Court called Williams versus the state of Pennsylvania. To keep it short, basically the brother was framed up, and when he went to the post-conviction relief, he saw his prosecutor was on the appellate panel, was the judge. So he objected and demanded that this cat, recuse himself, which he refused to do. So he just kept fighting, up, and finally it went up to the Supreme Court. It went up to the Supreme Court, and they decided that if you the decision is if you are involved in any phase of the conviction of a prisoner, you cannot sit on the appellate phase. That's good. Obviously, Mumia has been, caught up in that for a long, long time. So we're trying right now to reignite the public interest in his case. And I have information on it for anybody that's interested. But what I want to know, what the hell should we do here? How do we, it's one thing to be for something, it's another thing to know how to make it happen. What do you think? How can we best bring this back to the public? Thank you.
Yes, I think we have to kind of redefine prison in order to deal with it from a contextual point of view. Prison is legal slavery. I mean, let's call it that. I mean, when the Second Amendment, the 13th Amendment, was, all it did was really legalized it to a degree. Slavery, let me say it like this: legality in this country has been deified and made holy. If it's legal, it's okay. They could do anything. The system can do anything they want to you. What they did when they quote abolished chattel slavery, they put prison in place of chattel slavery. It was a hoodwink. Malcolm X used the term pretty well. They hoodwinked the crap out of the people, especially doing. Don't get me wrong, slavery just changed from one form to another. Slavery. We have to put it back to what it is. Slavery. Prison is a form of slavery. And if prison is a form of slavery, we have to deal with it like it's a form of slavery. We have to articulate the words that shows us that prison is indeed slavery. Because what did they say? Slavery and involuntary servitude exists on these shows except one who has been duly convicted of a crime. Which means this: if you're duly convicted of a crime, you're a slave if you go to prison. Now, being duly convicted of a crime does not necessarily mean that you're guilty of this crime. And so many people, have proof of that. And this is what we have to do. We have to. I'm told that I have to let it go, but that's my train of thoughts.
But I do want to answer. I do want to just take a little short answer. The reason why we're not building support in a lot of cases is because we're not using, taking advantage of the alternative medias that exist. And what's been happening is that the main media outlets have been keeping us dumb. And I don't know how else to say that. We don't get the information. We're not getting the information, and we need to take advantage of the alternative media networks as much as possible and use those medias, the broadcast, and to reach the masses as much as we can, So that's an important piece. That's why I work at The Real News, and you need to take advantage of that. And you need to get in touch with me and talk about your story, okay?
Okay.
We want freedom, 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 yeah, freedom. You can sing it out. Freedom, freedom to determine our destiny.